Welcome to an all new episode of Hatching for Health. As you can see, we are in the comfort of my own home as we are talking about an intimate subject again, and that's my fertility journey. And we have the pleasure of having Marc Sklar back on, not here with us from San Diego, but on a Zoom call. So we are going to get started and dive right into what we're talking about. So welcome again. Thanks for taking some time out to visit with us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much. It's a little bit different today being with you on video than it is to be with you in person, but it's a pleasure to connect with you again.
Yeah, I thought maybe he'll be more comfortable if he sees my house since he was here. Where's the studio? You film, a lot. So I know you in front of the camera can be anywhere. You're talking to people all over the world. Country world, like about their fertility journeys, men and women, just getting them on the right page with everything that you do as a fertility expert. And so I just kind of wanted to bring you back. We did speak a lot about so many, areas of fertility, but just wanted to kind of, I guess, pick up where we left off and kind of let you start maybe with a question or two, and then I have, a little bit for you as well with everything that you do and just kind of giving some viewers some more insight.
Sure, that sounds great.
So where we left off, I was in the fertility space as it relates to IVF, and I know that you're for IVF, not for IVF. I mean, it's really about everyone's own journey and like what they have to do. But I do know that your approach with the natural route is very important. So maybe just touch on that first, kind of with your clientele or patients, I should say, where that kind of division comes, like as far as the amount of people that need one versus the other.
Sure. Well, for me, it's really a matter of where each individual person is at and meeting them there. Every circumstance is different. Every couple's journey and path is going to be unique and different. And so I think it's really important that we take that into consideration when we're making these recommendations, and that we're not pigeonholed or stuck into one path or another. About 50% of the couples that we work and support are going through IVF or IUI. And some of them come to us because they're already on that journey, on that path, and they want to try to increase their success rates. Others have been trying naturally, and for whatever reason, it's not working. And so they end up, because of time or circumstances, moving forward with IVF. And so it's really about meeting them where they're at. Actually, this morning, I was on a brief conversation with a woman whose husband is a little bit older than her, and his semen analysis results came back relatively low in certain areas. And she was asking me, so does this mean that we need to do IVF with ICSI? And I said, well, what I'd say first and foremost is we're not ready to start that process right now. Yeah, but if we can't see his numbers shift enough, then absolutely, I think we do need to consider that, and that should be an option. And we can get started on talking about which fertility clinic might be best for them, so that we're not behind the eight ball later on, right? So that we're not trying to catch up later. And so we're going to take multiple approaches with them. We're going to start down a path to try to correct things, but we're also going to have her look at some clinics and reach out to them so that we can be doing things simultaneously. So if she needs to go down that route, she can go there a little bit easier.
I love that. I think that, you're making the most of like every bit of time, right? Because that's all we have is time, especially from a woman's perspective, and, our eggs, and the fact that, unfortunately at that 35 mark, they just very quickly become less, of what we need as a woman. Whereas men, you mentioned, I think in last episode, and I think 40 to 50% of it is the man in these, fertility situations. But considering the man doesn't have a fertility issue, it very much starts to look, and point the arrow at the woman based on her age, right? It's like, well, statistically, and that's kind of where, where I fall into it. We actually, as I talked about my husband, we got him to that point he needed to be because he didn't have the sperm count at the time of like our initial analysis, and then we had to ramp him up, and they're like, okay, he's good. So now what's wrong with you? I'm kidding. But I want to say I did kind of put the IVF away. Like I'm not going to do IVF anymore. Unfortunately, I didn't, I didn't get what I needed on that third round. I know when we talked, I was like waiting. That was, I think, the day before I was supposed to learn, whether or not we had healthy embryos, and I didn't. And it was like another devastating moment. It's almost like I had 4 miscarriages. It's like just each time that you get that news, knowing you made embryos, like we had 2 boys, and then we had 2 boys and a girl, and then we had, I don't even know what the last 2 were. It's like, you don't really want to know because it doesn't make it any better or easier to hear the news. But so after that, we've like regrouped, taken a lot of, guidance and knowledge that you've provided, and also just kind of decided to like go about this the natural way from this point forward. So I want you to know I signed up for your program, the Hope program.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about it because I feel like there's so much more that your entire team offers, from like a spiritual aspect to like dealing with miscarriages. Like I've realized you literally have like kind of the dream team for me, right? And so I signed up yesterday. I'm like, I'm on my way, right? I know you don't have the future, but I know that you give me all the tools, or any individual all the tools. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that program. I mean, I know there's so much to it, but just for those watching, just from your perspective, like just kind of touch on how vigorous and important that program is to a woman and man.
Yeah, I created the program because I saw a need. I saw that there was so much missing. There was a lot of misinformation, a lot of couples just trying to do things on their own and not really understanding what was appropriate for them specifically. So many individuals not doing the necessary testing or diving deeper beyond that kind of foundational testing. And so I created this because I wanted to allow couples to have a vehicle for finding out a little bit more about what's going on with them individually, and being able to create a plan that was more customized to their specific needs, and not just the general needs of everybody who's trying to get pregnant. And so that's really why I created it. And then it's evolved over time to fill in the missing pieces that I never saw before, that I didn't include previously. So that's where you mentioned some of the support that we have in there, and some of those group calls that are there more for the emotional and spiritual side. Those couples who have had a loss, we have a whole support call just for recovering from a miscarriage, and trying to allow them to move past that a little bit easier. And I'm constantly adding as I see that there's more resources and more things available that can improve and support couples. I'm adding those things into it. And I know that last time we talked a little bit about environmental toxins and chemicals. Well, I've started doing a lot more with that, and I've got a whole new piece that I'm evolving and creating for that I'm about to put in when it's ready. And so that's the sort of thing that we all get as part of this, is that it's, fertility is evolving. It's not stagnant. And what couples need as we evolve in society and as the world changes is going to evolve with it. And so I want the program to evolve with it. So we've got a really comprehensive approach that's designed to walk somebody through the understanding of the analysis side of things, like what labs do we need to do, why we need to do those things, addressing our lifestyle, our diet, kind of resetting our body from the beginning, and then creating a plan that's customized to them. And then it's really about, moving forward with the plan. So I think you alluded to it earlier, that what I'm here to provide everybody is the resources and tools and guidance to help them get through all of this and help them create, I create that personalized plan for each individual couple that's in the program. But after that, I can't do it, right? Like I can't do the plan for them. Oftentimes I wish I could. So then the burden really is going to fall back on you or any couple that's in the program to help make things happen. And that's where time and some patience and really determination on your part is really going to be impactful, because that's what's going to make it happen in the end.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, like a two-way street. It's like you could fill us with everything we need to know, but implementing it and like actually taking the initiative to make those changes. And it's difficult. Like we're all like, everyone's different that signs up for your program, of course. I'm an owner of multiple businesses. I have, staff that depends on me and, not children yet that depend on me. But it's just like kind of taking time to make it's almost like a fitness competition you're training for, you're just like, okay, I have to like make sure I put these things into my body. Like the vitamins aren't going to always be like, like I can't eat like shit and take vitamins and be like, I'm good. It's like you have to like actually incorporate those right antioxidants and like do all the things. And then like the environmental stuff that you're, going to give more information on, which I've already gotten a world of value from, those things are so important too. And like, you take them for granted. Like you're just, you know what I mean? Like you go here, you go there, you throw your hands under a sink to wash them with, God knows what, it's just like, there's just so many things that we touch all day long that we're just like putting these little chemicals in us. And we're like, have no idea, like, the later outcome when it relates to your eggs. Like, well, your body in general, right? But like creating a child, and I feel like for me, maybe you could give me some advice for me and other potential clients for you, like the husband part of it. It's like, I don't know, it's like I want him to be on the same page with like everything, and he's just like that manly man, right? And it's like, I'm like, here's your vitamins, like, and I'm like, he eats pretty good, but just the other things, I'm like, can we not clean with these products? Can we do that? And he's just not listening. Like, I don't know if you have any advice, just like for the other side of it. And then other things too, right? Medically speaking, just all the things that they need to do, what you could maybe tell us to help our husbands.
Yeah, look, I think the dynamic between partners is really important here. And you're speaking about it in terms of, how the man can help his wife kind of facilitate everything going through the program and making the necessary changes, which is super important. I will say I sometimes see it the other way around, so it's not always really? That way. Yeah, but with that said, it's really about the couple supporting each other and communicating with one another. And I think that we all need to take responsibility on our side. So I think when it comes to this, it's like, for me, the guidance that I often give is what happens inside the home, whether that's diet and food and recipes or cleaning products or whatever else is going on. For me, what happens in the home needs to be facilitated by whatever recommendations are necessary for your fertility.
Yeah.
And then, let's say he's doing well, so maybe he doesn't want to always be great with his diet or whatever outside the home. Well, that's different, right? Because that's outside the home, and you're not going to be there to be a watchdog, and you shouldn't be ongoingly. So if he goes out and occasionally has a drink with his friends, or, let's just say, eats Chick-fil-A, even though we don't want him to eat Chick-fil-A, we're not gonna bother him about those things, right? But I think the agreement should be that what happens in the house should be only to benefit our fertility. And if that means because it's primarily benefiting mine and the chemicals that you're using are going to impact that, then we need to change those things. There are plenty of good cleaning products around that don't use chemicals that will get the job done. And just because we're used to using something doesn't mean that's the only thing available. So it's really about just communicating, being on the same page and having an agreement like, we're going to do it this way here, but when you're out of the house, I won't bug you about it.
Yeah. And I think I'm more to blame on some of those aspects. We do have to take a commercial break. When we come back, I want to get into the medical side of it, the blood work, the testing and things like that. So we will be right back with you after this quick commercial break. Welcome to Arabella Chiropractic, We are located right here in the heart of Houston, right down the street from Lakewood Church off 59 in Edlow. We welcome you to come visit us for any of your chiropractic or physical therapy needs. We have a licensed massage therapist on board, as well as a tech that's trained to do our ultrasound and stim with hot packs. We also offer physical therapy and, of course, the chiropractic visits where you can get adjusted and discuss any of those aches and pains to see how we can better help you feel better. Here at Arabella Chiropractic, we want your experience to be amazing. So come see us here at Arabella Chiropractic, where you can discover wellness through chiropractic excellence. Welcome back from the break. If you have just joined us, we are talking again with the fertility expert, Dr. Marc Sklar, out of San Diego via Zoom. And we are touching on so many important details as it relates to fertility. So let's get back to it. So before the break, we're talking chemicals, we're talking, doing what you can in the home to make those changes collectively as a couple. But what I wanted to touch on now, and it's something that we've done a lot of due to the fact that we've now gone through IVF, but I think too, like maybe there's areas, we missed, but basically testing, I guess the blood work from both individuals, the sperm analysis, kind of talk to me about like the main things that need to be accomplished, like entering into a fertility journey, IVF or not,
Yeah. So lab testing is super important. And you touched on it. You've been through some IVF cycles. And as a result, you've had a lot of testing done. But that testing has probably been pretty limited and focused on what is needed for an IVF cycle. So you've had your husband's had the semen analysis done. They've looked at your uterus and your fallopian tubes. Those are all good check marks to have because we want to understand what's going on from there. And then from the blood testing, they've done all their STDs and virals, so that they're looking at those. But they've done a little bit when it comes to hormone testing. They're looking at your AMH and your FSH and your estradiol primarily. And then if you were getting any further along from there, then they would add in and look at, address your progesterone levels. But outside of that, there's really not a ton more that was probably looked at.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit with your thyroid, but not a ton, not a complete thyroid panel. So for me, it's really important that we have as much information as possible. So what we ask couples to do is first and foremost, gather all their historical labs and all their historical records, because the more information you have historically, the more we can see a progress, a trend, we can see issues that were maybe already developing.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we want new updated labs. If they haven't been done in the last 6 to 12 months, then we want to update those with some of the hormones we just mentioned. But then I'm going to round that out as well. So aside from FSH and estradiol and AMH, I want to also understand what's going on with your DHEA levels and your testosterone levels and your prolactin levels. I also want a full thyroid panel. So not just looking at TSH, but we want to look at all the thyroid hormones and your thyroid antibodies, because that can cause a lot of problems when we're talking about fertility. Then we also look at inflammatory markers, lipid panels and blood sugar. We want to get a good foundational thing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg before we even potentially do more testing.
Okay. Wow. So it's, and that's something I'm going to, I guess, kind of learn about as I, dive into the program. I mean, you'll obviously provide, I think that's the video I'm currently on leading up to one of the group calls is like, basically, hey, if you don't have a place you can go, like we'll send you this panel and you can go get it done at a lab of your choice. Right. But it's going to actually break down all of those that you're needing to get a look at. Is that going to be like for my husband and I both to go do, or is it just myself?
Yeah, so we usually just start with you and then we'll look at the semen analysis. If there's something abnormal or that we're concerned about in the semen analysis, then we will make recommendations for additional testing for him. On top of that, we have had other couples who have said, his semen analysis looks fine, but I think there's still something wrong with him. Can we do some additional testing? And so we've done that and looked a little bit deeper. So it just depends, but that's the kind of foundational piece that we'll do. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And when you spoke a bit about the thyroid, like for me personally, like as much as I know anyway, I've never had any issues from a thyroid perspective. I know friends that have, and it's fluctuated their weight and done a lot of things to them. But assuming like I've not had issues, is that likely to be an area that, you end up, when you mention there's more than just like the individual thyroid, there's like kind of a bigger picture on that. Is that anything that could potentially be affecting like the outcome of like kind of my situation? You know what I mean? Or is that more about getting pregnant?
Yeah. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't already caught for you.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
Right. What I hate to have happen, and this is something I see all the time, is that we don't run certain basic tests just because your history doesn't show it. Mm-hmm. And then we decide 6 months down the road or a year down the road, you know what, we never ran that. Let's run it now. And we find out that there was an issue. Yeah. So for me, I'd rather just know that up front and never have to question it again. Mm-hmm. So that's why some of those things that are more common to see, even though you might not have it, I'm going to run. And so like thyroid is super common in women. Upwards of 50% of the couples that we support have some sort of thyroid issue. Okay. So that's not something I'm just going to ignore initially.
No, that's definitely from, the program and from the amount of women that you've had, sign up and participate. Just out of curiosity, like how many of them like actually during your program or leading up to it, like did IVF and then stopped and went the natural route? Is that very common, or do you find that they hadn't really got to an IVF program, like they've actually just, you know what I mean? I'm just curious, like maybe you're like, oh yeah, I've actually had 20 women that like IVF didn't work and we got them pregnant naturally, like just kind of looking for hope, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you historically like have maybe?
We do see it all the time. It's not an uncommon thing. Someone in a similar situation has done multiple IVF rounds, and they're kind of tired with it. And so they stop and let me just take a step back and regroup and try something different. We see that quite often. Mm-hmm. And we have good results with that. I don't know the exact numbers of how, like you mentioned, we've had 20 women. I don't know how many. It's much higher than 20, that much. It's hundreds who have had a similar situation to yourself and have said, oh, we're going to take a step back and try to get pregnant naturally. But each one of those cases is unique and different because you might have somebody who's 35 who's had that history. You might have someone who's 45 who's had that history. And it's not just the age that's a factor, but it's also what's their reproductive history and hormones telling us. So there's so many variables that are going to be at play in terms of factors that influence their ability to conceive, regardless of how they're trying.
Makes sense. So there in San Diego, Marc, you have a practice where like patients actually like walk through the door and see you as well, or have you taken everything to a remote level with your business?
No, we haven't done everything remote. I mean, maybe at some point, but we do have an office here in San Diego that I see couples in. I have a whole separate team then that works with me online. It's two separate entities. Okay. And the team that works with me in the office have been working with me for no less than, the providers that is, for no less than 10 years. And I have one who's been with me for about 16 years. Amazing. So we have a lot of experience but with that office, we only see couples who are local to San Diego County. Okay. And do you continue to see them as their like the OB side, or is it just leading up to getting pregnant, or where does that? Yeah, so we'll see them once they get pregnant. We'll see them through their first trimester for sure. And if they allow us to, we'll see them into and throughout their pregnancy. I just had three women deliver last week. Aww, and sweet. We saw them through their pregnancy if they allow us to and want to.
Yeah, that's incredible. That probably just like really puts the icing on the cake for you when you actually get to be a part of the full process. I listened to like a video that you were on. So your background like is a little bit like in that holistic space actually, to begin with from your beginnings of becoming a doctor. Is that right? Like I think more of the, I forget the name. I know a lot of chiropractors I know kind of take a different route with it. Tell me the name.
Yeah, so I'm licensed and trained my degree in Chinese medicine. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that's what it was. It was like a little like outside the box from like a lot of the, doctors I know in the, OBGYN, like obstetrician area. So with that aspect and spin on it, do you think that that's been kind of a big asset for you with like, where you've taken your career with the fertility?
Yeah, I mean, I love that side of it. Locally, we do acupuncture in the practice. We utilize it quite a bit, and even the Chinese herbal side of things we'll incorporate into our recommendations wherever we see necessary. So it's a big part of what we do, and I think more importantly, it's a big part of how we think about working with couples and how we approach medicine,
like
and
the functional side of it.
guide couples. Yeah, because we blend our Chinese medicine with functional medicine and kind of bring it all together to support couples.
Love it. I love it. So I'm hopeful, like as we progress, and love to visit your clinic one day when I'm like in that Southern California, realm of the world. But I think too, just I'm excited about like the future of what's to come with, the knowledge I gain through your program. And I think for anybody listening, like, is there a bit of advice you have for them if they're just kind of like on this fence of like, wanting to get pregnant, haven't got pregnant naturally yet, or, just really kind of any bit of tips that you could enlighten them with?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing is we need to maintain our individual and personal hope and determination on our side of things, right? As a couple and as an individual going through fertility treatments. I think that's really important. We're going to have ups and downs, but we've got to continue to believe in ourselves. And then second, we've got to get the right support. I mean, invariably, I find the biggest key to success is getting the right support, whether it's somebody getting the support that we offer in terms of that integrative fertility medicine side of things, or if it's someone who is going through IVF and that's really what they're determined to do, but maybe the clinic that they're at is just not the right clinic for them for whatever reason. And so truly finding the right support with having someone who's going to work with you as a team member, and they're going to listen to you and be collaborative, I think is really, really essential to getting the results that anybody's trying to get. So those are really the biggest things that I think someone listening who's been struggling and hasn't been able to get pregnant yet, it's those are the two real big things of keeping your hope and determination, and then making sure you get the proper support for you as an individual to get you the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's great messaging. It's I think with everything in life, like having the right team around you, from like a business perspective to a building a family perspective, it makes all the difference. To even this show, like all the people that come together to make this possible, right? It's not it might take one person to like, we're gonna do this, but it takes a whole team to like actually make it happen. The same way to bring a baby to this world, I'm like, come on, babe. Right. But he, my husband is, he's very much now against, I don't want to say against IVF, but he's just like, I don't want to do that to your body anymore, and it's like, okay, but he's like, we're a little afraid with the, because we got pregnant and had a situation where we had a life-limiting condition, naturally, but it's like, I feel like we just have to put that behind us, like trust in God, like,
I'm sure somebody out there is going through the same thing too. How are you coping with it?
Yeah. I guess I've been really strong. I only teared up, I think, once. But yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, I'm a very optimistic individual, also a Christian woman. So I have my faith. I obviously connect with those things have connected with those elements of myself, during this journey. 'Cause it's been a difficult one. I'm, an entrepreneur woman that I control pretty much everything in my world with decisions that, I make from a day-to-day basis. And this is something that's out of my control. So whether you're, that businesswoman or an employee of somebody's like regardless, like it affects us in a very deep way, and it messes with your mental state. And so I encourage you to like be positive, be proactive, the way that I am doing to make this happen for your life. Like, you know, I know from a financial standpoint, like IVF is a very financial strain on some. You know, it's not something that is a typical doctor's appointment. It's not covered by insurance. So it's a lot. If that's the route you choose, like I don't discourage it, but like figure that out if that's your plan. I do think that God is a big part of our life and our journey, and timing is on his watch and not ours. And so that's where I think I am. I think that it wasn't the time and now is. And so I just, you know, encourage you to be a believer, and to pray for that guidance. And I hope that it happens for you the same way it will for me and my husband. So thank you, Marc. This has been great. I'm really glad to be able to like take this next step with you. And I feel like we're on this journey together almost. And, you know, just thank you for really doing what you do, because you're obviously going to be a big part of my success. So I look forward to giving you a hug in the future and being like, thank you, Marc.
Well, I look forward to you having that success and being, you know, a small part of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And we will we'll definitely stay in touch. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Hatching for Health. We will see you right back here next Saturday.